Welcome to NHL Tonight First Shift, presented by Navy Federal Credit Union for a Monday, April the 21st, 2025. EJ Raddick alongside Billy Jaffe. Jaff, how are you?
Eej, how you doing, big guy? I'm doing well. Patriots Day here in
That's
Boston.
Right. The
I just got
marathon?
done. Yeah, I did about a 2.5-hour marathon.
Nice.
Little slower than normal, but I made it back in time just to sit down with you.
All right, and look, you even showered. You look like you didn't do anything all day. You look fine. So great job by you. Speaking of someone who always runs the marathon, our producer, JD Lindbergh, want to bring JD in? We got a little news today, right?
Huge news, Each. We're thrilled to have Navy Federal Credit Union
Yes,
with
we
us
are.
as the presenting sponsor
Yes.
for NHL Tonight First Shift throughout the first round. So NFCU, we're going to try and give you some bang for your buck. It's a great company. I'm not just BSing about that. My parents do use NFCU for some of their banking.
All right, I love that.
Yeah, I'm also a client.
All right.
They're not just sponsoring a TV show here, fellas, as you both know. It's also a podcast. You can
That's
get it
right.
on YouTube each and every day here, YouTube and YouTube Music. So download the pod, subscribe to the network, and listen to us get you set for a night of playoff hockey on your commutes home.
There you go. Very well done, JD. And with that, let's get to first things first, because the playoffs have begun. We had a weekend full of games. We had 5 games in total over the weekend, 2 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. We got a bunch of games going tonight, 4 games on the schedule tonight. You can look at the brackets, and we don't even get Tampa and Florida till tomorrow. So that'll be interesting. Billy Jaffe will be down in Florida for that one, doing work on the radio side. But Jaff, I want to start with the Vegas Golden Knights, because really impressed with their performance last night. And Tomas Hertl, who's, last year at this time, he had come over in the trade from San Jose, Billy. He had been coming off injury. He wasn't in shape. He was kind of a shell of who we know Tomas Hertl is, and he was good in this game. The Knights were good. I thought it was a really good game, and here you can see the numbers for Hertl already in 1 game. He's already got more points, and he's a plus player in game 1. But that was a heck of a hockey game, Billy. And Minnesota, they're not going to be an easy out.
I agree with you. Physical game. I enjoyed the intensity of it.
Yeah.
It had really good playoff vibe. Not that others haven't, but this one to me felt like so far the best game of what we've seen in the playoffs. We got a couple of new series starting tonight and tomorrow, so we could see that as well happen.
Yeah.
I really liked what Hertl did. Hertl had a really good regular season.
Yep.
Third on the team in points. Eichel led the way, then Mark Stone. Hertl was right there. This feels like an opportunity for him, along with Dorofeev, to be very integral for this team's long run or potential long run to another Stanley Cup, just given how so much attention should be given to a guy like Jack Eichel. And obviously Mark Stone, the way he plays, he's got that swagger about his game, that intensity, right? And then you got a guy in Hertl that can come out. He's bigger than people, I think, sometimes realize. He's got the great shot, as we saw. I just think this could play out each for him to have a really, really good playoff. And as you said, Bud, he's healthy. And he's been this year healthy, and so I like it. And he's the kind of guy, this is what they brought him in for, and that's what they signed him to an extension to, this type of playoff hockey.
Yeah, when you think about the Vegas Golden Knights, Jaff, through the middle of their team right now, Eichel's obviously the 1, Hertl settles in as the 2. William Karlsson is terrific as the 3, because we know he can provide some offense, but he's a great 2-way defender as well. And then you have Nick Waugh, who's one of my favorite playoff players, because Nicholas Waugh just goes out there like, under the radar. This is why the Golden Knights are a terrific team. They find him in Carolina. They bring him in. They end up signing him to a very, very affordable contract that has some term to it. And every year in the postseason, Nick Waugh plays very well. You can move him around the lineup. He set up Howden on that winner. Howden's another guy. Couldn't play with the Rangers. He was traded from Tampa, the team that originally drafted him, to the Rangers. Didn't work. He goes to Vegas. He had 23 goals this year, and he had 2 last night, including 1 at the very, very, very end of the game. That may or may not have changed some of the wagering outcomes that took place in that game last night. But really impressed by that center depth of the Vegas Golden Knights. And if you want to win in this league, you've got to be really strong through the middle.
They are strong and they're physically big, just like their D crew's physically big. But if you look at that left side of the lineup that we had up on the screen, and if you're listening, we're talking about, Olofsson, another guy that couldn't, so to speak, play, or was given opportunity. You already mentioned Howden, right? There's Brandon Saad. Remember Ej Saad, who saying it's like, nah, no more, and here he goes and he buys himself out basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He says, okay, don't worry about it. I'll give up a couple of schmil and I'll go play for this team. And this team happens to be Vegas.
I thought he played really well last night too, Saad. I thought he had a lot of jump. Yeah.
Sure did. So it's a place where people seem to go, and because I think of the other quality players around them, they get better. But if you're really looking down the middle, Eichel, phenomenal year, and then you got a 1A and a 1B. I don't think this is a 1 and 2. This is a 1A and 1B tandem there with him and Tomas Hertl.
Yeah, it's a pretty good group through the middle, and heck of a game last night. And I look at their ice time numbers. I mean, Bruce Cassidy talked about it after the game. Like, those guys, nobody had more than 51-second shifts in the game, and I think on the low end it was like in the mid-30s. I mean, they're running those 4 lines, running those 6D. Everybody's getting an opportunity to play. That's the way they like to do it in Vegas. It was really, really impressive. And as I said, they needed all of that to win that game because Minnesota's healthy again, and when that team is healthy, they're a dangerous team with Kaprizov and Eriksson. Eriksson, I think I said it before, I think he took 31 faceoffs last night. More than half of the faceoffs the team took, won 21 of the 31. Kaprizov, Boldy, Zuccarello. I mean, they added Buyam to the mix last night. He played about 13 minutes or so, played at the end in crunch time. He's going to play more. Yeah. Like, he is going to get more time moving forward, so it'll be interesting to watch him kind of grow and develop. But good game last night, and we got 4 more on the slate, Billy. Let's look at the schedule for tonight. We had game 1 in Washington, the Capitals and the Canadiens. That's at 7 o'clock, 7:30. Blues and Jets, game 2 in Winnipeg. Jets rallied to win in game number 1 on Saturday. Stars and Avalanche in Dallas at 9:30 Eastern. And then at 10 Eastern, it's the Oilers and the Kings, all the games there on ESPN and ESPN2 here in the States. Canada, you get them on Rogers. Jeff, I thought, we mentioned Vegas and Minnesota as a really good game. I thought this was the other really good game, the Jets and the Blues on Saturday afternoon. Great atmosphere, great crowd. I thought the Jets started off really slowly in that game, Jeff, but I thought they found their way, and then they scored late to win it.
Yeah, Kyle Connor with the winning goal with 1.5 minutes remaining. I agree with you about the atmosphere. I agree with you about the slower start from the Jets. The Jets did the proverbial, we're going to kind of tiptoe into the playoffs instead of coming out like, shot, out of a cannon and then fall back. Yeah. It was a slow warm, put it that way, and we know that, if you're following the NHL, how hot St. Louis has been as of late. And so I think they came in and the Jets were almost not deferring to them, but they were saying, all right, let's see what we're going to get from them. Let's see how we can then reestablish our game. It took them a while, but they end up getting there. The Iafallo go to tie it late. How about him getting pumped up or bumped up to play with the top line about the last 10, 12 games or so, with Gabe Vilardi been out of the lineup, and he's been fitting in well. He scores a big goal from the doorstep, and then you get the goal from Connor and on a face-off play. Yeah. On a face-off play that I've actually saw, it's almost the exact same play, not 100%, but close to it, that I saw Edmonton run last year with McDavid going from behind the net and everything. Here it was Scheifele ends up getting over to Connor. I think it was pretty sure it was Kyle Connor after the game said, I don't know how many times we run that play. This might have been the first time that it worked in the sense that, they get other chances. But they ran it seamlessly, beautifully, and it was great. And the place goes bonkers. And it's one of those places I do think that has home ice advantage to it. I do. Here, we're taking a look on video here. Going all the way around the net. Around the world goes Mark Scheifele from right to left. And then Kyle Connor kind of goes stealth off to the weak side for the one-timer. And the whiteout was white hot after that goal with 1.5 minutes left.
Yeah. You know what's funny about that play, Jeff, is that with Kyle Connor, he can't break too soon, because if he slides too soon to that space, the Blues will probably lean that way. But he waited, and like when you see the play unfold, He just holds for a second, and then there he goes. And he just jumps into that space, and then he's able to connect on that pass. Great pass from Scheifele. And a little bit earlier, Connor had a chance from that same area, and Binnington was able to shut him down. So huge play, very late in the game. Thought we were going to overtime. We're having none of that. The Winnipeg faithful there going nuts. But that line played well, right? They were all in the mix. Scheifele had one. Iafallo had one. I mean, and Iafallo, I always liked Alex. He's one of those guys you can move around your lineup. He's got good speed, so I'm glad to see him getting an opportunity while they await some guys coming back. Hopefully they get Velarde back at some point, Ehlers back at some point. But a good win for the Jets, who have a lot, right, Billy? They have a lot to prove here in the postseason still.
Oh, boy, do they ever. And Hellebuck still, the goals against were okay. I mean, it feels, it's like, it's hard to criticize, right? Because he wins the game.
Yep.
But yet, I mean, he's under the big time microscope, just given how amazing he was in the regular season each. We know he's winning the Vezina, and we know especially but yet, the tag of got to show it in the playoffs. It does. It's a true tag. It exists, right? I mean,
of course. We
know that he's a special goalie, but we watch him, and now what is it? 3 or more goals allowed in 10 straight playoff games. That's you need a few of those games to be one of those 1 or 2 goals allowed type games, but. He is he can be a force there, but an .824 save percentage, as we just showed on the screen, is not going to cut it over the course of the series. How's that for your obvious comment in the first segment of this show?
You know what I mean? I thought Henrik Lundqvist did a great job on the TNT studio of talking about, obviously, Hank, one of the great goalies, but talking about Hellebuck, how he plays deep, but he was low. And because the thing I noticed was, and I'm sure you did too, in the goals, there was a lot of net to shoot at. Now, there were good shots, but there was a lot of net to hit there on those couple of goals. Hank's point was, like, when you play deep, sometimes when there's traffic, you've got to kind of be more upright. So we'll see how the adjustments are. At the end of the day, if you're the Jets, you're thrilled. Hellebuck was just good. He didn't have to be any more than that. He only faced 2 shots in the third period, and you won the game. We'll see how things go in Game 2 tonight. But I think the Blues got to be kicking themselves. Had a great chance to steal that Game 1. They played well in the first half of the game, and then it seemed like they were just trying to protect that lead, Jeff, and you know how that goes. That usually doesn't work.
Yeah, I can't do it. And, Jim Montgomery, I read some quotes post-game. He said, well, we have a young team. We'll grow from it. We'll learn from it. I'm paraphrasing that. And while that's true, that's where, the vets, and they have some good vets on the team. They got, Parayko's a heck of a vet. Fowler's been there, and boy, has he been good since he came over, right, from Anaheim. You got Shen. I know you got some other players, but that's where those top guys got to stand up literally or figuratively and say, come on, we got to get aggressive. Now, again, it's a simple game, sitting in the chair here, doing this show with you. You understand being on the ice is different, but that's where you just need to continue to play the same way, because I couldn't agree with you more, partner. They had a huge chance to take Game 1, and taking Game 1 in a series where the President's Trophy winning team was just good, no more than good. That's all they were. Would have been a huge pump up for the St. Louis Blues, the team that kind of everybody's darling heading into the playoffs, just given how they finished the regular season, so we'll see. They're moving Snuggerud up, right? They're gonna change some lines there.
They're flipping Snuggerud and Neighbors. So here's a look from Tom Timmerman tweeting this out. You can see they're switching. So a little bit of a change there from Jim Montgomery. You know Jim Montgomery well from doing the Bruins games over the last couple of years. I mean, what do you make of this little switch?
It's a gut thing for him. Yeah. He's looking at the lineup and he's saying, can we get a little bit more out of Snuggerud with those top guys? There's another young player that you're putting into a pretty heavy-duty position right there with those big guys up top. But, he can always change it back. He can toggle it back in game. But here, coaching is, playoffs is about adjustments game to game. I don't need to tell you that. You know that incredibly well. I liked what I saw from St. Louis for the most part in that game. But Montgomery, I think, feels he can get a little more, perhaps, offense by moving Snuggerud up with those guys. So we'll look to see how that is. And, now What does that do to Shen? What does that do to that line? Does it change things? We'll have to see there. But overall, not too much different I would expect out of the St. Louis Blues, except I'll go back to what you said not even 3 minutes ago. Don't play to hold on.
Yeah.
Don't play it that way.
Gotta keep pushing.
Sometimes that's where you need your coach to push, and you need your leaders to push along as well.
Yeah. Last thing about the Blues, you mentioned the veterans they got on defense. I mean, I was doing the math the other night. Coming in playoffs and regular season games, now they had 5 more games, I guess, combined, right? That the 5 guys on defense, those veteran guys, I think it was 5,700. I think now going into tonight, it'll be 5,763 combined games of experience.
Wow.
So, I mean, amongst, what is it, Leddy, Parayko, Fowler, Suter, and Falk, those 5. So crazy amount of experience on the blue line. We'll see if that serves them well tonight. We got to talk about the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche. They are also going to Game 2 tonight. Game 1 was it was a little bit of an odd game. I mean, that first goal, even the second goal that the Avalanche scored, they were kind of crazy goals. But in the end, Mackenzie Blackwood, I thought, was terrific in the game. The Avalanche played with a lot of confidence. They had all, for the most part, they had their full group in there. And they ended up getting the win. And the Dallas Stars, think about this. Game 1, they just never win Game 1. I mean, a lot of them close, 1-0, and all those overtime games in a row. This was not that the other night, but we'll see where they go from here. That Miro Heiskanen skated this morning. We're waiting to see if there's a chance he could play in this game too. They certainly need to get him back, but we got to wait and find out to see if he's able to go.
You want to talk about tough tasks coming back, even though Miro is one of the top, arguably top 5D in the entire world. Coming back to play against that speed factor of the Colorado Avalanche. It's a powerful speed, Eej. It's led by Nathan MacKinnon, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's that ultimate, he's that unbelievably high charge freight train that doesn't take a long time to get going.
Yeah.
He's out of the gate quick, but then he'll bowl you over. Same thing with a couple of other guys that they have. I mean, Makar is just breathtaking what he does on the ice. But the overall speed of the Colorado Avalanche, I think is going to be a quandary a bit for the Dallas Stars in this series. Can a guy like, again, can Heiskanen, can he rev up soon, right away against them? I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. I don't know. I know those goals were fluky, especially the first one.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more. But did you think it was as close a game as some other people said? I kind of feel like it was okay. I'm not saying Dallas doesn't have, I'm not saying at all about Dallas doesn't have a chance, but I thought that Colorado was definitely the better team in that game. I definitely did. What about you?
I thought they were the better team, but I will say this. Mackenzie Blackwood had to make a number of big saves, and there were opportunities, Jaff, where he would make a big save at one end, and they would come down the other end, and that's how they got that first kind of fluky goal that was kind of kicked by the Avalanche player. I mean, that was kind of a crazy play. But I thought Blackwood was important. So, for me, I thought, in games like that, if for some reason, if they didn't get good goaltending in the game could have swung the other direction. And then the Avalanche are chasing the game, and it might make it different. So I did think Colorado played well in the game. But I think they needed Mackenzie Blackwood to play well, and he did play well. And the other thing, too, is people are talking about Mackenzie Blackwood like they just found this guy, on a corner somewhere. He was a second-round pick of the Devils. His first 2 years in New Jersey, .918 and .915 save percentage. Those are very, very good save percentages. At the time, everybody was talking about the New York area, Shesterkin with the Rangers coming, Sorokin with the Islanders, and then Mackenzie Blackwood, 3 really good goalies in the metropolitan area. Then we had COVID. Blackwood had some issues. He didn't want to take the vaccine. That became a distraction. He eventually decided to. Then he had an injury. He didn't take care of himself very well. Talked to the Devils people. They would say that, he'd come back in and the injury would be worse than it was before. And I just think, like a lot of us in life, he had to mature. And he ended up playing himself out of Jersey. He goes to San Jose. He gets his game together behind a struggling, rebuilding team. And full marks to Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic and the Avalanche, who knew they could not go forward with the goaltending they had. And they took a shot on a guy that had been playing well, who had pedigree. He was Jeff, second-round pick as a goalie. That's a high pick. And he had some good years in Jersey. He just had to mature a bit, and he did. He got healthy. And listen, a good pickup by the Avalanche.
Great pickup. I mean, when he's in shape, he's built like a middle linebacker.
Yeah.
He's a big dude.
Yeah,
you know?
big, good feet, moves around well.
Yeah, and I remember watching when he was a youngster with Jersey, and he came in a couple of times. It was really good against the Bees. And then to your point about needing to grow, there were times when he was such a big man. And we're seeing this with some other goalies too. Sometimes these big goalies don't look as big.
Yeah.
And pucks were going through him then for a while. But he did find a reset button. He got himself, reestablished in the league. Now he must have just an absolute ton of confidence. Playing with a team as good as the Colorado Avalanche, and to have a 5-year contract in his back pocket for, what was it, 5? I believe it's 5 a year that he got. By the way, did I read right that was his first ever win over Dallas in that game?
I know it was his first playoff start. So
that I know.
Yeah,
and I think that's his first ever win over Dallas in his career. I think he's now 1-4-1. So that's got to make him feel good too. He was good. Don't get me wrong. He was very good. I look at this Dallas team, and they haven't won now in 8 in a row, right?
Yeah.
They haven't, not just 8 game ones, but 8 in
all
a row
the way
this
back
year
into the regular season, or they lost the last 7.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a concern for me from the outside looking in. I got a lot of faith in their coaches. I think it's a wonderful staff. They need to up the ante though, and again, they need to up the pace. They're going to have to. They absolutely have to against this Colorado team. Yeah,
well, we did get it confirmed. That was his first win against the Dallas Stars. So you were right about that, and. They miss Heiskanen, and now Jason Robertson. Think about bad luck, got hurt at the end of the regular season. Terrible. Here's a note from the Colorado Avalanche, though. A tweet. Gabriel Landeskog has been activated from the injured reserve, Billy Jaffe. Now, we saw Russ Colton get dinged up the other night. Could this be the night that Gabriel Landeskog returns to the National Hockey League?
Well, if Ross Colton can't go, I think he played 7:20 last game. And that was it for Colton.
Okay.
As I get a siren going right by me as we talk about injuries right now. Hopefully nobody needs that. But Gabe Landeskog, who has worked his what off to get himself back into really a almost unimaginable scenario to be able to at least. I mean, he's played 2 pro games in the last week in the A. If he can come back, holy smokes, what an absolute story. And you know what? If he does come back, and if it's in let's just call it it's definitely a bottom 6 scenario. Even if he only plays 9-10 minutes a game for his first game, what a story with him coming back. The line of Kelly, Drury, and O'Connor were excellent last game, by the way. Now, you can call that the fourth line, and it is for Colorado. 11-0 and 5-on-5 shot attempts. That's great. I mean, I think the Drury pickup is part of that Carolina deal. Phenomenal pickup. He plays that role real well. So that would mean that Landeskog, assuming you keep those 3 together as we show you the expected projected lineup for Colorado in this game tonight each, that means Kiviranta, Coyle, and Landeskog. You put the captain on the right side with Charlie Coyle, who is a very responsible player, who is slotted perfectly as a 3C on this type of team. Again, let's just say you get a solid 10 minutes. I'm sure Gabe is going to want to play more than that, but 10, 12 minutes maybe out of him. What a boon for this team. And then you can work him in slowly, and you can always bump up Logan O'Connor if you need a couple of more minutes here and there, depending on what Landeskog, how he's feeling. And maybe he's fine. Maybe he's going to say, nope, I'm fine. I'll play 14 minutes, no problem.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let's face it. Coming off IR, I mean, they didn't have to do that today. So I would say that's another indicator that he'll likely play. Colton, you mentioned, he only played 7 minutes and 4 seconds the other night, did get dinged up. So maybe an opportunity here through injury for Landeskog to jump back in. We'll see how it goes tonight. But an important game, too. The Stars, remember last year, lost their first 2 games at home, ended up winning that series against Vegas somehow. So Stars, though, would like to go down a different path this year and maybe tie this series up tonight against a strong Avalanche team. When we come back, we got a couple of series opening tonight, the Kings and the Oilers. And then how about this? The Canadiens back in the playoffs taking on the East's #1 seed, the Washington Capitals. We'll talk about the Habs and the and the Caps next.
NHL Tonight, First Shift is presented by Navy Federal Credit Union, official military appreciation partner of the NHL.
Welcome back to NHL Tonight, First Shift, presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. Here's a look at the series schedule between the Capitals and the Canadiens, starting tonight, 7 o'clock in D.C., play again on Wednesday, and then the scene shifts to Montreal, to the Bell Center, Friday night and Sunday night in Montreal, and then you can see if necessary after that. But should be an interesting series, Jeff. I mean, the Capitals come in, they were the top seed in the East. They have 111 points on the season, 20 more than the Canadiens. But when you look at how things finished for both these teams down the stretch, the Capitals perhaps caught up in the fact that they had really opened up a big lead during the season and maybe distracted a bit by the Ovechkin chase, had some injuries, struggled down the stretch, I think, for the last several weeks. And then the Montreal Canadiens had to have their foot on the gas, and since the Four Nations tournament, they played really well. Now, they struggled to get that final win, but they eventually got it. I mean, I think this series has a chance to be a really fascinating series between a big, strong team like Washington and a smaller, faster team, and certainly an underdog like the Canadiens.
I agree with you if Montreal's D and goaltending is stout.
Yeah.
If it is. Now, I know you can say that about just about anybody, that you need good goaltending. Duh. Thanks for the insight.
Thanks,
there,
Jeff.
Billy. Yeah,
thanks, Jeff.
I'm here for you. I'm here for you all show, buddy.
Yeah.
I just think, though, that you're going to see a young D in Montreal and a goaltender in the playoffs in Montembeault that are going to have to exceed, I think, expectations for them to have a really good chance. I think it's going to be fun. I think we've got, I did the series back in 2010 when Jaro Halak stole the show the last couple of games. I did it with the unbelievable, the legend Sam Rosen. That was so much fun doing that series, and couldn't believe our eyes, right, with what happened. Now, could we see that again? I don't know. I just don't know. Now, I do think it's going to be a little open at times, which could benefit the Montreal Canadiens. But when all's said and done, if Washington, right, if they get Faravari, if they get Protas back, and if they play the right way, obviously Thompson, I think he's going to play tonight each. I don't know.
First goalie off today was Thompson.
Okay.
Here's from Tarek El-Bashir. Thompson first goalie off this morning ahead of game 1. So that's usually an indicator, right, that
good sign.
He would be the starter?
Yeah, good sign there. I think if it's not going to be an easy one, but I think if all things being equal and they get to their game, I think this is their series. I do. With all that said, again, I'm looking forward to watching the Montreal Canadiens bring it. Thompson with just a fantastic season and then just signed a big-time contract late in this regular season. Now looking forward to trying to establish himself as a bona fide playoff goalie.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, right? I mean, that's when I look at the Capitals. If you would have asked me about 5-6 weeks ago, I was like, hey, the Capitals are in the Metropolitan. They've got a great path. They could get right to the conference final. Maybe they go to the Stanley Cup final this year. Who knows? Maybe they win it. And then I watched over these last several weeks, and this team just wasn't quite the same. Now, can they flip the switch? Were there things, they were way ahead, nobody was challenging them? I just tell you what I saw, and what I saw was they were giving up way more goals. The goalies weren't quite as good. Thompson got hurt. Protas is hurt. He's still out. This is a guy that had 30 goals for them, and they were all even strength. He had no power play goals this year. He is a factor and a force for that team. He's out right now. They're hoping to get him back, but right now he's out of the mix. So they've been on this kind of trajectory where they're kind of coming in a little bit. And Montreal, they added Demidov, who was just, fantastic to watch. Gives them maybe a little secondary scoring. That first line is really good. You're right. Their defense, it can be a little light, but you know what? Hudson has the puck all the time. He's hard to catch. Gooley is back healthy. Matheson is a great skater. They got Carrier from Nashville, who's been a helpful player. And Montembeault, I think he's one of those guys. It's like hit or miss with Montembeault. Like, he could end up being really good. We'll see. But I just think that the Canadians, they could give the Capitals some trouble here. As I say, styles make the fight, right? If the Capitals can be that big, strong team that wears the Canadians down, they'll probably win the series. But if the Canadians can get their feet moving and make it hard for the Capitals to stay with them, different ballgame.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm with you with regard, and I've been on record saying I'm not completely buying in with the Caps for a huge run here, if only because also they had this truly organic energy coming from the whole grade A chase, right? Like, you can't replicate that in a regular season with anything else each. It was unbelievable. And with so many great players have great seasons, the career type years. Chychrun comes to mind. Thompson, the aforementioned, the goaltender. Obviously, Pierre-Luc Dubois reestablished himself. And so you had all these things. And the young guys, Protas, McMichael, et cetera. The list goes on and on. With all that said, I'm not sitting here and saying I'm picking them to go to the Stanley Cup. I'm saying I think if they get to their game, they win this series due to their depth, their size, and their style when all's said and done. They seem to have a lot of respect for their young coach, Spencer Carberry, the way that he resonates with them or gets through to them. And that's going to be key here, is that they don't get away from their game. And how much does Ovi, how much is Alexander Ovechkin? Does he tweak his game a bit? Because at times during the regular season, we didn't see physical Ovechkin. We saw, I'm going to wait and pick my spots Ovechkin and hit spots for shots Ovechkin. Can he now is he energized enough to elevate and get perhaps a little more physical, to get a little, play the way that made him the behemoth that he is for so many years? I don't think he can sustain that regularly game to game, but given his age and everything. But I do think that it will have to be a little amped up there. So I'm interested to see. But I think if they get to their game, that they end up winning this series. Yeah,
it'll be fun to watch, and it'll be really fun to watch on Friday night when they get back to the Bell Center. Playoffs in Montreal for the first time in a couple years. So that'll be an interesting night in Montreal for sure. Game 1 tonight in D.C., 7 o'clock Eastern time. When we come back, the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers, they will start their series tonight. We'll talk about the Oilers and the Kings, 4th straight year in the playoffs. Is this the year LA can get it done? Next on First Shift. Let's take a look at the series schedule between the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers, meeting for the 4th straight year in the first round of the playoffs. But there is a twist. This year, the Kings have home ice advantage, and it starts out in LA tonight at 10 o'clock. Play Wednesday at 10, and then the scene shifts to Edmonton for games 3 and 4 on Friday and Sunday. Now, is it important for LA to have home ice advantage, Jeff? They did have an unbelievable record this year, 31-6-4 at home. Is this the year? I asked you. Is this the year the Kings finally beat McDavid and Draisaitl and the Oilers?
Well, if they win all 4 games at home, it is. How's that for a lame answer?
Pretty lame.
It's hard to go against the Edmonton Oilers.
But Jeff, look at this. Look at this.
I know. It's. So with that said, I'll ask you, or rhetorically put out this comment question.
Okay.
What happens if they lose once at home? Then all the pressure in the world is on them. They have to go into Edmonton, where obviously you look at Edmonton's road record. That means they're spectacular at home too.
Yeah.
We were there last year. We know what an amazing environment it is up in Edmonton.
Yep.
Just awesome. with all that said, I wonder. I can't look past that Matthias Ekholm injury.
Big injury.
And think
big.
it's like, man, it's going to be okay. You know, your offense starts from your defense. He's so valuable. And I don't know, I mean, that's a big loss by them. But I think that this might be the year, big guy, that LA finds a way to beat him.
I like you say, well, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's listen, Ekholm is a big piece of the puzzle for an Oilers team that really, that's a challenge anyway. Even if he's healthy, I don't know if their D is as good as it was last year, right? So, I mean, Broberg came in late in the playoffs for them and was spectacular, but he's playing for the Blues now, so he's no longer part of things. And this team, to me...
Cece's gone.
Yeah, right? That's right. And this team, to me, isn't quite as fast as it was last year when you think of some of the players that have departed. Foegele, who is now in L.A., and also McLeod is moved on to Buffalo. I mean, those guys brought some speed and energy to the group. So, I don't know. I don't think LA will win all their home games, but I do think they'll win the series. So I don't know if that makes any sense based on what we've talked about with their home record, because Edmonton is a competitive bunch, and McDavid and Draisaitl, those guys. See, that's the thing, Billy, is the Kings have had no answer for those guys. They have just lit up the LA Kings in these playoff series. I mean, how can they at least contain them better this year?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question, right?
Those two guys are so good. How do you contain them better? The fact that now you've got Byfield separated from Cole, you've got depth. You know what I mean? You've got a so-called checking line with Danault and not a so-called. You have the matchup line. I feel like the depth is just a little bit better for the LA Kings this year.
I agree.
Because of the maturation of Byfield, and perhaps that allows them to handle the McDavids and the Draisaitl's just better enough. I don't want to say it's okay if they get some of their, it's so hard to contain those guys. You got to figure they're going to get some of the offense regardless. It's just not allowing them to pick up, if you're going to allow 4 goals in the game, that they've got 3 of the 4, those guys, type of thing, So when it's all said and done, I do think that the depth of LA is better, and I think that Darcy Kemper is a better goalie than Stuart Skinner. I will give Stu Skinner credit, though. He impressed me last year in the playoffs. I won't speak for you, Eej. It wasn't always pretty. It was not always pretty, but he came through to get his team, or at least to help get his team, to the Stanley Cup final when it all's said and done. And I think he elevated his game in the playoffs.
Well, that'll be, again, that's another storyline. Kemper, who has kind of resurrected his career after a tough go in Washington, and Skinner, who was injured late in the season. Can he be the Skinner that helped lead the Oilers to the Cup final last year? We will see. But should be an interesting night tonight in L.A. for sure. As the Kings, they've got to be tired of losing to the Oilers in the first round. So be looking forward to seeing that one as that gets going tonight, 10 o'clock, game number 1 out west. When we come back, it was a big night for the Leafs at home. Their power play was clicking, and at least in game 1 of the Battle of Ontario, they were the better team. We'll talk Leafs, Sens next on First Shift.
NHL Tonight, First Shift is presented by Navy Federal Credit Union, official military appreciation partner of the NHL.
Welcome back to NHL Tonight, First Shift, presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. So, game 1 in the books in Toronto, and the Leafs took advantage of an undisciplined Senators team. 3 power play goals by the Leafs, 9 combined points by the core 4. Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander. Anthony Stolar's terrific in goal, and the Leafs win game 1 6-2. They will play again on Tuesday night in Toronto. And, Jaff, when you think about this game, I mean, those big guys, that's always the thing in Toronto, right? Are the big guys going to produce? In the past, they haven't scored. It's been an issue. 9 points for those guys combined in the first game. Got to be feeling good.
Got to be feeling great. They have to, given that they came out and they did a lot of things that were very good for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They were physical, and it was a physical start. We're seeing some hits from both teams. They were engaged. I thought the crowd was excellent, was very much a playoff-style crowd for the Maple Leafs. And then they got involved, and they get up 2-0, and then it's 2-1. And, Ottawa's like, they're right back in it. Yeah. And then that's where some of those bad penalties came in. And by the way, I rewatched some of the penalties. I thought the Stützle one was marginal at best. But with all that said, you're going to have some marginal calls made both for and against your team, and you got to be able to PK them. The difference in that game, partner, I felt was the power play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, that they took advantage of some penalties, especially 2 in the O-zone, that made a difference for them, and they scored immediately. I think combined, the 3 power play goals they scored each, I think literally took 20 seconds, and I'm not exaggerating, maybe 24 seconds. The 3 goals combined were that quick. I love how Toronto simplified off the face-offs on the power play. A, they won draws, and B, they didn't screw around with the puck. And they took what was given, and then they scored 3 goals on the power play. That was huge for them.
Yeah. You know what's funny, Jeff? My least favorite thing in the playoffs is people whining about the officiating. Because, listen, these guys have a hard job, and there are going to be calls that we're not going to like, that teams aren't going to like. But at the end of the day, I mean, my feeling is always, listen, there's a lot of adversity in these games. You got to keep playing. You got to kill the penalties. You got to get through that adversity. And, you saw it a little bit in Mini last night, too. They're after crying about penalties that weren't called. At the end of the day, you can only deal with what's in front of you. And the referees, they set a tempo in the game. The Senators never really adjusted, took some bad penalties. And, yeah, we could talk about, is this good? At the end of the day, you didn't kill any of them. You were terrible. You let them have 3 quick power play goals, as you point out. One of them was on a 5-on-3. So they've got to be better. And Ullmark, he was so good at stretches during the season. I mean, they didn't play great in front of him. He wasn't great last night. Nope. Here's the playoff numbers. And I go to you, Jeff, because most of those numbers were accumulated in Boston. And we've seen this. We talk about it all the time. We talk about it with Hellebuck. We talk about it with all different goalies. In the playoffs, when there's more pressure, can you get it done? And, I have the confidence that Linus Ullmark will have good games in the playoffs, too. But you've seen this movie before. What did you make of him in Game 1?
It was okay. That 5-on-3 goal is a pretty damn good shot by Willie Karlsson coming into the slot area there, goes against the grain, shoots back there. But I thought he was just okay. You need to have a save or 2 made in there. The goal that was scored from a shot from the point that goes off Highmore's glove. I don't know totally why he's reaching the glove out. There's nothing he can do there. I mean, I'm not going to go through every goal. But there's 1 or 2 you're like, all right, you need to make a save. When Linus Ullmark is at his best, big man to begin with, but he looks like you can't see anything behind him, and he is so calm. I saw him at times in the playoffs where other times his body language and his work in net, there was more movement, and it was not as stout. He was not as big. He didn't present himself as big. And I just think that becomes maybe a confidence thing come the playoffs. There's no doubt regular season. We saw it this year. There were some lulls this year as he transitioned from Boston to Ottawa, especially early on, dealing with some injuries. But he really found his game there. But in the playoffs, he needs – you brought up Hellebuck. That's another example right there. He needs to prove come playoffs that he can – I mean, there's not a 1A, 1B here. He's the number 1 by far with the Ottawa team. And he needs to be the guy that's going to take him and lead him to victories in this. He's going to have to steal a game. There's no question about it, bud. There's no question about it. He's going to have to do it. And I thought he was just like the rest of the team. I thought he was just okay in Game 1.
He'll have to be better in Game 2. Stolarz was terrific for the Leafs. So we come back, Jeff. We got some coaching moves over the weekend. Peter Laviolette out in New York. Greg Cronin out in Anaheim. We'll discuss that next on First Shift. So it was breakup day for the New York Rangers at their practice facility, and here's Vince Mercogliano, who was on the scene, giving us a quote from Igor Shesterkin. In my mind, something broke during the season. and went the other way. We couldn't handle it. There you go, your goaltender, who is signed a long-term deal during that season and obviously is a terrific goalie and will be there for years to come.
Yep.
But, I mean, it was a crazy season for the Rangers, Jeff, and they end up firing Peter Laviolette, and, you know, here we are. I don't know if they shed any new light on anything. I mean, we all knew it went bad and it stayed bad.
Yes, exactly right. Not sitting in the room. It kind of feels hard to comment on it like with authority, but outside looking in, it just had a bad look, a bad feel to it. It just did not have a very copacetic vibe for this team this year. And I really do think it started with the Barclay Goodrow trade over the
in the summer, forcing him out, the whole Trouba thing.
Forcing him out,
Kreider,
physical presence. Yep, and then Trouba. I think that resonated poorly with a lot of players there.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. And, you know, for the Rangers, I mean, they've had 2 high picks in the last couple of years. I mean, Kakko is now in Seattle, and Lafreniere signed a new deal and then disappeared, it seemingly, in the second half of the season. So we'll see where things go from there. Laviolette out, Phil Housley out as an assistant. We'll see what they try to do moving forward. Could they go to Joe Quenneville? Could they go to David Carl? Also, Anaheim looking for a new coach as well, because they've decided to move on from Greg Cronin despite a 21-point improvement this year.
Yeah, better team, no question about it. Playing quote-unquote meaningful games down the stretch. But Pat Verbeek and management looking for something different to continue to reestablish this Anaheim Duck team as a better team. A lot of young talent, but still in my eyes a little ways to go.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I really like a lot of the talent there. I think it could be a good job for somebody to go into. Feel really bad for Greg Cronin, who, know, he worked to get that job, and I think he showed improvement with that team. We'll see what they decide to do. This much is for sure. We are done today. NHL Now is coming up next. Enjoy all the playoff games tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.